This is ChangeMakers with Katie Goar, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
Today's change maker is Rob Fredericks, the CEO of the Housing Authority of the City of Santa Barbara, where he has dedicated nearly 30 years working in real estate development and working for the Housing Authority, and just bringing his wealth of wisdom to how he leads, what he undertakes, and the progress he's making in California. So with that, I welcome Rob. Thank you for joining our Changemakers podcast.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
It is good to have you here. And we have recently talked, so I feel like I've gotten a little bit of a sneak peek into all the development and all the things that are happening. But first, as we welcome you to this platform, I'd like to open it up and have you just talk about your background in real estate and your background with the Housing Authority, maybe how you came to work there.
Sure. I consider myself a lifelong houser. I grew up here on the Central Coast and grew up cleaning up construction sites on my family's developments. My dad was a developer on the Central Coast of California here, building entry level homes, first time home buyer type of homes, and just always involved in that in one way or another, starting with just cleaning up the construction sites. And then once I graduated from high school, I went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, got my degree in business administration with a concentration in real estate finance. Got my real estate broker's license and went back to work for the family business for a little while. And then decided, I had a little bit of an imposter syndrome going on with the family, working in the family business, and decided I needed to get a real job. So the Housing Authority at the time had an opening for a Section 8 housing inspector. And I figured, well, you know what, I'll go there and as a waypoint to figure out where my real destination is. So I interviewed for that, was hired, and fell in love immediately with the mission-driven aspect of our agency. My predecessor here at the Housing Authority as executive director, Rob Pearson, was a real true mentor to me, even when I started out as just a housing inspector, and quickly moved me into different areas to learn the Housing Authority operations and programs. I became at the time we weren't, this was back in 1996, and we weren't even really computerized. We were working off of dumb terminals at the time for our system for managing our voucher program and public housing. And I moved us to an actual computer system that worked. And so they put me in charge of IT at the time, then director of administrative services, then deputy executive director, and then eventually replaced my predecessor as the executive director. Now, we're a fairly young housing authority where we were formed in 1969 by the city of Santa Barbara as a separate public agency. And there's only been 3 executive directors. And before me was Rob Pearson, and before Rob Pearson was Rob Foreman. So all the executive directors have been named Rob. So I don't know, maybe that's in the bylaws somewhere that the ED has to be named Rob. So
It was definitely in the stars, huh?
yeah.
Trick question, because you got your first inroads as a Section 8 inspector, do you actually walk the properties now and point out things using that old hat that you used to wear?
Yeah, I think I do point out things as well, as just not from just the inspector days, but just from my experience in growing up in the land development industry and
Mhm.
looking at something that's not quite right or something that we need to change or enhance and fix, and bringing that forward. And that's kind of the take I have on all of the developments that we do, is that these need to be truly places that we build community in, and places where our residents are happy and proud to call, this is my home. This is where I lay my head at night, and I'm
Mhm.
proud that I live here. And
Mhm.
our developments, we're really proud of them, that we hold them up high for the community, that yes, this is affordable housing, and guess what? It looks better than the market rate housing
Mhm.
next door to it. So
Yeah, yeah. You and I were talking recently, and that was one of the things that you mentioned is that how you guys in your development, you really tried to incorporate several components, not just the roof and the windows. I mean, the basics, but you've really tried to reframe how housing looks. Talk about some of these developments in more detail for us.
right. So Santa Barbara is really, I mean, every place is unique, and everybody's proud of where they live, but Santa Barbara is truly a gem of a place to live and work. And it's the American Riviera. It's midway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. It's a fairly small community bounded on one side by the Pacific Ocean and on the other side by the Santa Ynez Mountains. So it's a small sliver of land. We're pretty much built out. So and Santa Barbara has a rich history of holding the feet to the fire, not only of all development, to have that Santa Barbara look,
Mhm.
that's Spanish Mediterranean, colonial Mediterranean look. The smooth plaster, red tile roofs, which is truly beautiful. And so in the downtown core, there's what's where most of our developments are what's called the El Pueblo Viejo district, and we have to build to that standard and that look.
Mhm.
And it's a very difficult process going through, the entitlements with the city. And I like to call it, it's the toughest process you ever go through that you'll love, because at the end of the day, you end up with a with a development that the community's happy with, and that we're happy with, and the residents are happy with, and they're lovely developments. And it's not just the sticks and bricks, it's how we site them in the neighborhood. We don't want to overbuild the neighborhood. As affordable housing, with the state laws that have passed in California, we could blow through the height limits that the local community sets and go high rise, and you know, build massive amounts of units, but that would also be detrimental to the community. So we
Uh-huh.
always look at balance. We look at building to the highest density that can still fit within the neighborhood, and have that Santa Barbara feel and look.
Right.
And that's something I'm proud of that we do. I mean, I'll get lambasted by some elected officials saying, you need to add 2 or 3 more stories onto that development if
Mhm.
we're going to give you local funding. And I'm like, yeah, I just can't. It's not going to work. It's not going to be the right product at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So I'll build that extra story if it works
Mhm.
for everything we're trying to fit in those puzzle pieces.
Right.
And so we stick to our standards, and we make it work at the end of the day. And we make sure that it's not just the hardscape construction, it's the landscape, that we build beautiful open space areas for the residents.
Mhm.
As people walk by, you look at the building and you can say, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
I live here and this is beautiful. You look at like these just cookie cutter developments that go up, that are
Yep.
like no character. They're kind of monolithic. And I think to myself, if I had that and one of our developments, and if suddenly those cookie cutter ones just disappeared one day for one reason,
Hmm.
would I miss it? Would I miss
Right.
looking at it? Would people miss having that? And the answer is no. But if you look at what we build, what we create, I would say, yeah, I would miss that. I would miss the beauty and the architecture of what we create. And, I'm going back again to New York. You and I were just there for the NARO conference. I'm going back in November. We were the first inaugural awardee of the Grindaz Award for the uh, Institute of Classical Architecture and Art.
Hmm.
They're headquartered in New York, and we were awarded their national award for creating beautiful developments. It's not a single development. They looked at the breadth of our developments
Yeah.
and saying, gee, the housing authority is doing something truly unusual here. They're really
Hmm.
taking time to ensure that what they build is truly beneficial to the community, and like not just easy on the eyes, but boy, you look at it and you gaze at it and you say, that's beautiful. Dang, I would love to live there.
Yeah.
That's something we're truly proud of.
Hmm. And you are benefiting more than just the person who lives there, but you're really being a good neighbor. And we can make all kinds of points to references of the economic improvement and the strategic improvement for that neighborhood when you have an apartment community that is enhancing it. So, it is more than just the person who is living in there, but that's what you guys are doing really well. Like you're paying attention to the overall comprehensive development. You're not just building for the sake of building.
Right, right. I mean, yet we have such great needs all across the country, right?
Mhm.
We are truly living in the midst of a housing crisis, and the um the argument can be made for just build, baby, build, right?
Yeah.
And yes, we need so much more homes to be created in
Mhm.
every community, and that's true for Santa Barbara. But it needs to be done in the right way. It
Mhm.
needs to be done in a way that really does take into account the overall Santa Barbara community and take
Mhm.
that long view approach, not just, oh, we're hitting our regional housing needs numbers for the next 8 years, but what are we doing over the long term to create these long-term solutions that the community is proud of?
Right. And you have some different dynamics. It's not like you guys have acres and acres of land by which you can just go out and build more on. So you guys are trying to create the architectural amenities, the community amenities, um, a good steward of the limited land that you guys have as well. So, in several communities who are creating local solutions, they still have new ground that they can still purchase, and you guys have a different dynamic with how locked in you guys are. So I'm sure that's also contributing to the tension by which you have to develop.
That is so true. So we are truly landlocked here, and we're a built
Mhm.
out community. The city of Santa Barbara is built out. So we have to be opportunistic as the housing authority. When something comes available for sale, we have to jump on that to say, does this work for us? We have to
Mhm.
analyze the property. Does it work? Is it ripe for revitalization? Is it maybe an adaptive reuse product that we can do on a site? The State Street of Santa Barbara is world renowned. It's downtown central business district that tourists come to look at the architecture and shop along State Street, enjoy the
Mhm.
restaurants, and it's dying like every other main street. Well,
Mhm.
pre-COVID with the new way people shop online and whatnot,
Mhm.
all communities are having issues with their main street redevelopment. And one way that can revitalize downtown business districts is to bring in more residential communities uh, to that district where people live. And that's what we're doing in the city of Santa Barbara along State Street. The city's instituting a new adaptive reuse ordinance to say, look, if you can build within the footprint on that property, what's exists
Hmm.
inside, we don't care how many units you can put in there, put them in. And
Okay.
that's what we did with there was a uh, old we call it the Sur La Table building because that's the
Yeah.
Sur La Table kitchen
Yeah.
outlet was there, and they went out of business in Santa Barbara, and the building was sitting empty for years. And one of our local benefactors, local philanthropists, bought the property
Hmm.
and said, Housing Authority, if you will create livable studio units inside this property and keep the exterior, the beauty of it, we'll give this property to you. And I'm like, I'm not going to turn a blind eye to somebody offering us property. I'm like, you got a deal. So we
Yeah.
built it out, and it's a shining example of adaptive reuse in preserving the building structure that's there, that's beautiful. And we created 14 studio units within the building, and also kept a commercial up front on the ground floor, and we leased that out to Alo Yoga. They're like you might have heard of Lululemon or a
Yeah. Yeah.
yoga
Nice.
type outlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what Alo Yoga is, and they're thriving now in that commercial space, and it works with the studio residential units there as
Hmm.
well.
And
So,
your team's done about 1,500 units that you guys have developed. So, what would be your proudest moment, or maybe the hardest thing you guys have overcome as you've gone through and developed or redeveloped some of those units?
oh my goodness, there are so many proud moments and tough moments as well. One is in the pipeline right now, and it's the tough moment was this was a city parking lot, and right as at the gateway of Santa Barbara on Carrillo and Castillo streets, and it's a commuter lot that was underutilized, and it was at the time pre-COVID when the state had some money for temporarily housing people who are suffering from homelessness.
Hmm.
And I had the concept of putting tiny homes on the property
Yeah. Yeah.
there for about 5 years or so, and it was going to be a tiny home village. And I got that idea from when I went out to Austin, Texas, in where they have that world
Yep.
renowned tiny home village,
Yep.
and wanted to bring that here so we could take care of some of the homeless issues that we're having in downtown Santa Barbara. Anyway, for that, I took a lot of arrows in the back. The neighborhood came unglued, right?
Mm,
That kind of that NIMBYism of
yeah.
it's going to be torn apart by the neighborhood's going to be torn apart by those people. And I tried to tell them, look, we're really good managers, as you know,
Hmm.
in Santa Barbara, our properties, we're going to take care of it. They were having nothing of it, so that concept fell apart. But I wasn't willing to let go of the concept of taking underutilized land from the city and putting housing on it. So I asked the city and the community, can we put permanent housing here on this
Okay.
site? And they said yes, but what one group that's really underrepresented in having affordable housing is moderate income households,
Yeah.
those that aren't low income, and those that can't afford market rate rentals. It's that
Hmm.
true missing middle. And they said, if you can build that here, the city said, we will give you that property to do that.
Okay.
And so we got a development agreement. We're good to go. We're going to have our building permits probably in September or October. We have our funding lined up. The funding was not easy because one of the reasons why you don't have funding available for that missing middle is there are no subsidy sources for
Right. Right.
We can do light tech all day long,
Hmm.
do low income housing tax credits, other local funding sources or state funding sources for low income households, but nothing for that missing middle. And construction's very expensive
Hmm.
here in Santa Barbara. So we've been able to cobble together city funding, our own reserves, as well as doing a tax exempt construction to perm with Citibank and B bonds for the second layer of funding. And so it's going to be a reality now. We're going to be building 63 moderate income units there,
Excellent.
and those are people who are currently commuting into Santa Barbara to work,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
they can't afford to live in this very
Right.
expensive community where the rents are sky high. One bedrooms are like going for $3,500 a month.
Ooh.
Um, Two bedrooms are close to $4,000 a month. So
Oh my gosh.
moderate income households need
Yeah.
help here as well as the low income. And
Hmm.
what I'm happy about is we didn't give up on, of course, the serving those who are moving from homelessness. We have four other permanent supportive housing developments that we've created, and we have another one that we've just received state home key money that we're able to take an old broken down motel, Quality Inn, that the only architectural vernacular that I can describe it as is um, uh, uh, shabby faux French chateau type look. It's like really ugly. And we're doing an adaptive reuse there. This 33 unit motel, we're reimagining it, changing it into that Spanish colonial vernacular architecture in a very expensive neighborhood. And
Hmm.
I met with the neighbors there that were concerned about it at the very beginning after we bought it. And they're all on board. After we showed them different architectural renderings, and they said, we want that Spanish colonial vernacular here. Please do it. Please fix this up. And we were upfront that this is going to be for people moving from homelessness. We're going to provide on-site management, on-site supportive services. We're going to take care of them here, and we're going to take care of the neighborhood. And they're fully supportive of it now. And we're receiving all of our funding next month, well, August, next week. And we're ready to begin with that reconstruction and should be done with it by March of 2026 and have
Excellent.
people move in. So we're taking the 33 units. One of them will be a manager's unit. The others will be um, extremely low income uh,
Hmm.
units serving people moving from homelessness.
I'm so glad you mentioned this because I had read about the hotel conversion, or had talked with you. I knew a little bit about that. And it's one of those areas that a lot of people are still very leery of going through the dynamics. Whether it's, how do you create a kitchen? Just something logistically like that. Um, a lot of people have not quite signed on for this. We've seen another place in California, one in Oregon, who have really embraced these hotel conversions. What would you think? You've gotten the community support you mentioned. Any other logistical hurdle that you've seen and how you've overcome that?
The logistical hurdle on that one was getting the city staff to buy off on through the entitlement process that this is an adaptive reuse. It's not new
Hmm.
construction, to give us a little leeway on stormwater management, parking,
Okay.
and the other issues.
Yeah.
They tend to take a checklist approach, right? Well, gee,
Hmm.
are you providing enough parking, and are you doing this? And we're like, we have to look at the end user of
Hmm.
the property, the program that we're creating, and do we have enough ADA accessible units? And that is an issue with this. We have to um, uh, move some of the walls on this development to make the bathrooms larger so that they can be truly accessible for the need, but it makes
Mhm.
the unit smaller. But we're used to doing that too. Our very
Right.
first permanent supportive housing development was 62 units on a half acre.
Oh, wow.
And they're micro units of they're 256 square feet each. Very small, but we're able to incorporate a galley kitchen, full private bathrooms in it, and some nice private living space there for
Mhm.
each unit, and it works. They're livable. And that development, El Carrillo, was built in 2006, and it's been extremely successful. And that's one of the things that's important, that this community on this hotel conversion, we were able to point to that and say, go
Right.
look at El Carrillo. Come on
Right.
the tour with me to see how this development works, how we
Mhm.
manage it. See that the residents there who've moved from homelessness, they're good caretakers of the
Mhm.
units themselves, of the property, because we provide them something that's nice. They're proud of where they live, and
Mhm.
they know that they need to take care of their community for the
Right.
neighborhood as well.
Was there a moment where some deregulation could have helped speed up the process that you're in? Is there anything that you could speak to? Because a lot of people right now are saying, how can we build it? Yes, build it, but is there a way that we can incentivize or make it more efficient? Is there something you've come across so far in that regard?
Yeah, there have been some state. California has been really at the forefront of pushing state laws down to
Hmm.
the local level to say you need to be more efficient, local jurisdictions,
Right.
improving these projects and not create so many hurdles for truly affordable housing developments. And so it limits the amount of uh, design review
Hmm.
meetings that can be held, and really put strict timelines on the local jurisdictions. And that has helped us recently, with our recent developments, to the consternation of the city government and folks. They don't like the state telling them what their zoning laws can be, what
Right.
their local approval laws can be, and they have a point to a certain extent, because the local jurisdictions know what works for the local community. Does the state really know? But the problem is, there's been too many hurdles, too much backlog there, and not enough affordable housing built. We have such a deficit of affordable housing that I
Hmm.
welcome these state laws to really push the mandate. And these state laws actually uh, allow us to not go through those design review hurdles with the city.
Hmm.
We could just by right, go out and build. But
Mm.
I actually take our developments through the design review, to the chagrin of my team members, because they would rather push it along as well. But I think we get good ideas from our architects, our local architects that sit on the design review boards, that say, "Gee, did you think about adding this or changing this? This could make it more livable."
Right.
So to a certain extent, I do like those inputs from those design review boards through the
Mhm.
entitlement process. It just, but what those state laws do is it limits the amount of the design review meetings that they can force us to go
Oh,
through
right.
to
Right.
speed it up. So yeah, that's been very helpful. The big thing though that we really need is funding
Mhm.
to build affordable housing here. We need so much more funding, and we need also more local and state funding for meeting the gap. The tax credits on the 9% only
Mhm.
account for about 70% of the construction costs. We need that gap filler to make it work, and there's just not enough of that. So I'm always getting in good trouble with the city council members to put more funding aside for
Right.
affordable housing into a local housing trust fund that the city
Mhm.
created last year. And they increased sales tax, and really pushing them to take a portion of that sales tax and putting it into the local housing trust fund. But we also need state funding as well. There's a state bond that's going to be put on the November ballot next year that should really help also with state funding into the local funding projects, because that is so needed. With redevelopment agencies were abolished in California in 2011, 2012, and I'm still mourning the loss of our redevelopment agencies because
Mm.
they were a good local banker for us, for
Mm-hmm.
giving us, residual receipts loans that were needed to make these developments happen. And now that redevelopment agencies are gone, we need to backfill what they provided with other local funding sources to make these developments happen.
And so you talked about who you're wanting to build for. We mentioned missing middle. We mentioned the homeless population,
Mhm.
and because when you think about putting all the financing together, we have to remember who we're trying to house here. What are you seeing in relationship to the senior housing? Do you have a huge aging population? Because I think like you've got the financing need, you've got, like, what you need to happen, but then here, understanding the balance of what's coming here and what the need is. So can you give us a little bit of that picture too?
Yeah, so years ago, there was a recognition of a growing need for affordable senior housing in the future. And I remember 20 years ago, local communities along the Central Coast getting together and talking and creating reports, and out of those reports is really the aging baby boomers that are coming. And I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers, and they're now all retiring on fixed incomes.
Mhm.
And they were saying, we're going to have this silver tsunami hit,
Yeah.
and we need to provide the housing that's needed. Well, that silver tsunami has crashed onto the shore of
Uh-huh.
communities throughout the nation, including Santa Barbara. And we've done a really good job at addressing the needs across several demographics for affordable housing, seniors as well. We've created really service enhanced senior housing where we provide 3 meals a day,
Mhm.
housekeeping services, and a host of social services at a couple of these properties that really help with seniors that have aged in our existing affordable senior housing properties. But where do they go if they don't have kind of a in between place between independent affordable senior housing and skilled nursing? We were seeing seniors go into skilled nursing far too early,
Right.
because they didn't have an alternative place to help them. And the skilled nursing facilities are not nice places to live. So we created that in between with a few of our developments where they no longer can cook meals for themselves or do the housekeeping. We
Mm.
do all of that, and they still have their affordable housing. And so that's been really helpful. But we have in the pipeline, our largest senior housing development is right across the street from my office here, which is called Presidio Springs. And it was 122 units built under the public housing for senior citizens
Mhm.
in the early 1970s. And it's a full bounded by a full city block. And it was built fairly low dense for the time. Certainly for now, we wouldn't build that low density on that full city block. And so we're planning to redevelop that property from 122 units to 350 units. And so we're going to do it in phases, so that uh, we can move people who are going to be in phase one into other of our senior housing developments as they become vacant. And we probably won't begin construction on the first phase of Presidio Spring until 2 or 3 years out. but we need to plan for the relocation, the temporary relocation of our senior
Mhm.
care, and then move them back into the units if they want to move back.
Right.
Hopefully, we move them to for their new units there that are going to be so much better, more environmentally friendly. They're going to be a little bit larger units, and they're going to have air conditioning and better insulation,
Nice.
just a whole host of better construction techniques nowadays than what was built in the early 70s. So we're going to be adding, about another 150 units there
That's great.
that doesn't exist, and it's on
Yeah.
property that we already own,
Already own. Yep.
that was built under the public housing program. We took it
Right.
out under a Section 18 disposition,
Okay.
and we're getting our final approvals now for that redevelopment of that site, because it's so needed for that silver tsunami. We
Right.
have seniors. The majority of our people living in homelessness that are counted in vehicles every year
Mm.
are senior citizens, those who have lived in Santa Barbara, worked in Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
They weren't able to keep their place to call home
Right.
because they couldn't afford it any longer.
Right.
And their last refuge is their vehicle that they're living
Mm.
in. And we want to solve that issue to
Mhm.
provide senior housing.
Mhm.
We have another senior
Right.
development that's in the pipeline, another 40 units.
Right.
So we're always looking for what can we do for all of these demographics. And for the
Mhm.
last, I'd say, decade to 15 years, we've really focused on permanent supportive housing for special needs populations. Where
Mhm.
early on in our early history of the housing authority, we built a lot of family housing under the public housing program, and we kind of neglected, like, what else can we build for family
Mhm.
units. So now we have under construction a large family development, 48 units, that'll be 2 and 3 bedroom units serving low income families with kids.
Okay.
And I'm super excited about it. It's an upper State Street area that doesn't demand the Spanish colonial design.
Mhm.
And it's going to be that modern farmhouse design.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
going to be so lovely with the landscaping and the community rooms. It's gonna look like a big, farmhouse,
Mhm.
and, it's just beautiful. I can't wait for it to be done. It'll be done in September of next year, and we've been working with the school district closely on it so they can plan for, the influx of new students that will be living
Right.
there,
Right.
to go to the school in the school district there.
This is amazing that you guys have such a combination of housing products and developments that you're doing for a wide variety. It's fascinating to me that a housing authority can pretty much do things that I think originally may not have been intended for, like, providing meals, providing support connection to, "Oh, by the way, now you need to understand how to do elevator maintenance," to, "Oh, by the way, now you need to build, buildings for brand new construction."
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that was the original design, but through needs, through necessity, housing authorities and the staff are being tasked to do so much more.
We are. All of us housing authorities are, in
Mhm.
the past, as you well know, Katie, housing authorities were like just administrators of the voucher program
Yeah.
or public housing that was built with on a turnkey basis by outside developers at the lowest cost. Now we've had to become developers where we do all of our own development in-house. We don't we don't partner with other developers. We're able to keep, like, the developer fee from low income housing
Excellent.
tax
Right,
credits. We
right,
funnel that developer fee into our pipeline for
right.
our next developments to pay for our pre-development costs. They're always on the upward march as well. I can't believe it. Now our pre-development costs for these developments are typically about $1 million before
Mm.
before we even get to the point
Wow.
of being able to put shovel to ground.
Yep. Yep. That's amazing, the transition. But it's also a testimony to how, you and your team have had to um, move toward the need a lot faster, the flexibility, that nimbleness that you've had to move with how your community and what the needs are happening. When you look at across your team, do you have people who would have ever guessed like this is what their current day job is? Like what's the theme of your staff? Are they just kind of like, "What now? What next?" Or or are they, like, pushing so fast, you're the one that's having to say, "Oh, hold on. Let's take a minute." What's the general theme here?
They're kind of getting used to the pace that we do things,
Yeah.
and you know, they I so love my team here at the housing authority. Everyone, from our maintenance and property development department, our housing management department, admin, finance, we all look at ourselves as servant leaders, and as that truly, we look at our mission of how can we lean into this issue
Mhm.
of the affordable housing needs and create real solutions, and everybody is behind that, working together. We're all pushing that boulder up in the same
Yep.
direction,
Mhm.
together. And they get it. The team gets that if not for us, it's
Yeah.
not happening in the local community.
Mhm.
And they can be proud of that. And things aren't easy for them with our limited budgets, and being able to meet the needs of our residents, of our program participants on the voucher program. But we do everything we can to do that. And I have so many people here that are smarter than me, and they know how to make it work. I feel like I'm more their cheerleader behind them, just cheering them on, like, come on, we can do this. We're a
Yeah.
team and we can do it. And they do. They truly produce and lean into these issues
Mhm.
of affordable housing locally.
And one of the quiet revelations that happened just a couple years ago is that people realized how quickly somebody can get to housing insecurity. It used to be something that was somebody else's problem. And when COVID happened, when housing instability was on the forefront of a lot more people's mind related to some economic insecurity, all of a sudden you had this quiet revelation like, oh, I see how fast this can change a person's life when they don't have a home. And some of the things that I hear often from housing authorities is that the mission became a lot clearer when it became a universal conversation about housing instability. So that's been a quiet revelation as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Same here. Uh,
Mhm.
that housing instability, is in such a high cost market here,
Right.
that can strike at any given moment. And we need to be poised to at least do all we can,
Right.
uh, to help. And
Right.
it harkens back to, the people living in their vehicles. It's the same in
Mhm.
Santa Barbara as it is in Oakland and other places. And I had a gentleman living in his car right outside the housing authority here for a couple of years. And he had no other options, and he kept his place clean. I'd come in and he'd be sweeping the sidewalk,
Mm.
right next to where his car's parked. And I introduced myself to him, and gave him my card. What can we do for you? Can we get you on our list? And he was thankful for that. And then we built one of our permanent supportive housing developments, and he was able to get into that by being put on that wait list. So it's about making the connections with
Yeah.
people as well, who are living instably with where they
Mhm.
are, and giving them direction of where they can go for help, And it that's just makes my heart sing when I go to that property and he's there living at a place
Yeah.
that's meant to be
Right.
living in as a home rather than as a vehicle. And he's so thankful and he's thriving there. And we just need to do so much more for that.
So if you were going to tell somebody exactly why Section 8 vouchers work, is it a business soundbite that you can make?
Yeah, I would say it's a good local dollar that comes into the community, to the landlord community, that helps them uh, operate their properties, and that local dollar gets spent in the local community. It's kind of an economic income generator, right?
Right.
So you have that truly does help, and at the end of the day, you're helping people, you're lifting people,
Mhm.
seniors, disabled people, and working families. You're lifting them up out of poverty. The best way to solve poverty and to lift people up out of poverty is to give them an affordable place to call
Mhm.
home. It's
Mhm.
something that's truly affordable where they're not rent burdened. And
Mhm.
the other way is to at least pay people a living wage. That could
Mhm.
help. So
On the Section 8 side, it really is a private-public partnership to where you have the private landlords, you have personal choices of where they can take the voucher and shop, so to speak, so you have some mobility that's there, and then you have the public transparency and accountability of how that voucher is being handled. So it seems like it is the partnership that everybody wants with the private public partnership. And I think one more piece that in our business soundbite here, as we're saying, we're creating this on the fly here, is you also have the FSS program.
yeah.
So if you want to say whatever the details may be as far as duration, time, goals, but you actually have a mechanism to say, let's talk with the person with the Section 8 voucher. Let's talk about homeownership, education. What is the priority that they would like to set for that next step of mobility? And there's a parameter there that's already there to make that happen. So what do you think on the FSS piece? Um, Being an existing tool that isn't really maximized enough there.
That's so true. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program is a great program, and it really does equip our families on the voucher program to meet their own life goals and increase their incomes, either through
Mhm.
education, to be able to take their education and get a better job, or just financial literacy programs, all sorts of things, being able to create their own businesses. That's what family self-sufficiency is all about. And last year we had we're a relatively smaller housing authority than what you're used to seeing, I'm sure, but we had 18 graduates from the 5-year program that they lay out their goals, and they were able to graduate from the program, and one of them bought their own home. So it
Yep,
truly does work. They're able to
yep.
take that savings, because we escrow every bit of their income increase, from rather than going towards rent. We escrow it, the
Yep.
same amount, into an escrow, that at the end of that 5-year program they get that check and they're able to use it for any purposes they want. And many have bought their home, started a business, whatever there helps them with their life. They were able to do that, and our average escrow payment last year was
Oh,
$21,000,
excellent.
which was great, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and our average uh, income earnings increase last year was $42,000
Oh, wow.
increase in earnings. So this is a program that works.
Yes.
If you talk about people that have the wrong connotation of the
Mhm.
voucher program, that is just keeping people on the dole. It
Yep.
isn't. You're helping people because they can't afford the
Mhm.
these massive market rents, and you're helping with the rent subsidy, but you're also helping them meet their other life goals so they can get off the
Right.
program
Right.
eventually, and we can reuse that voucher for other people on the waiting list. And then, so we've helped a multitude of families through this family self-sufficiency program. It's so important. And that's one of the programs that was slated for zeroing out by the current administration for the federal fiscal year 2026 budget. And thankfully, the House and the Senate said, no, we're not zeroing out that program. That's a good program. It has good bipartisan support, has had good bipartisan support throughout the years because it's had good results.
Right.
So, yeah, we need to keep that program and keep it running. We need to expand that program.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of success stories with the Section 8 voucher program, and I think it's up to practitioners to keep talking about the success stories, but also be in some type of an agreement of, okay, let's make it better. How can we make it better? And I think that's the conversation that's happening right now. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, won't it?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
Rob, we've covered a lot of things here. Is there anything that we've missed before we close out that you want to bring to our attention about Santa Barbara or affordable housing?
Well, I would love to get you out here, Katie, to see our affordable housing developments because I am quite proud of them. And for any of your listeners to come out as well and take a look at what we do, the magic we've created here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's so much magic being done throughout the country. There's so many other great housing authorities that are doing wonderful work. And these are all agencies that are leaning into the problem of not enough affordable housing for their community members. And we need to keep the pressure on for getting the funding that's needed
Yeah.
to not just maintain our programs, but expand them.
Right.
Show our congressional leaders how these programs really work, the impact, the positive impact we have on the community and the participants' lives.
Yep. You did the exact mastermind that Denise Muha with the National Leased Housing Association says. She says, get your decision makers out to your properties and show them exactly how it's working. So that's a great reminder for all of the practitioners to do exactly what you just said too.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Forbes Quadell Changemakers podcast, and we are encouraged by all of the development with design and purpose that you're doing out in Santa Barbara. So good job to you and your team.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Goar. To find out more about Katie, go to quadell.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.